good advice poorly applied is not much better than bad advice in some cases.
Right.
We want our book to be a book for thinkers. And we want that not just in the way that our readers interact with the book itself, but in the way that they interact with themselves as well.
Ooh.
And so today we're going to look at a scene in which two of our characters have a discussion where certain biases are revealed, and we're going to look at how we think that that can apply to our readers and ourselves as well. So this scene is the second scene in our book, and it's a scene that I've been working on this past week. And Arnold, our main character, has just had this weird conversation with Vanessa, and he's totally confused as to why she's showing him any attention. And he's going to lunch with his best friend, Reese, and is going to kind of talk with him about this interaction. And the first bias appears before Arnold and Reese even have this conversation, as Arnold is panicked and totally confused and is trying to hide that as he goes over to talk with Reese. And this scene is going to be from Arnold's perspective. So we see him trying to mask his feelings, and we see Reese's response, but we don't really see whether or not he's effective at masking his feelings. And we see him kind of believing that he is effective because that's what he wants to be true.
And as you were describing just a bullet point in the outline in your preparation for that scene, I really saw this as an opportunity to portray from Arnold's perspective, he is the point of view character, portray what it looks like to try to pretend that you're not feeling nervous, and then to explore what would Arnold see in Reese that would make him question whether he was successful in hiding it or not. And I think what we want to try to do there is to show evidence of Reese's suspicion that something deeper is going on, but without revealing that Arnold recognizes it. So he'll see the evidence, and the reader will be able to put together the pieces and figure things out, even if Arnold doesn't. And part of that is to highlight that that is something that we as human beings do. We will see the evidence of something that goes against what we hope to be true, but we discount that evidence and don't allow it to impact our conclusions.
I believe belief bias is the term for that. The second bias that we see there, not exactly a bias, but Reese is trying to help Arnold out in this situation, and he shares with him some to-be-determined advice that Reese's older brother has given to him.
We don't know what it's going to be yet.
Right. This advice that Reese's older brother has given to him about how to handle social situations or things like that in high school. And what happens is Reese misapplies or misinterprets his brother's advice. And I think part of the reason for that is he doesn't really understand why his brother said this. And he sees a slight connection between what's going on with Arnold and what his brother said. And he over-amplifies how much this advice actually applies to the situation.
Which is what we do very often in our lives. We personally have an association, or we make a connection between two things that may or may not be related. And Reese is doing that here. But what happens is the strength of that association in our own mind becomes so strong that we tend to think that it's obvious and that everybody else should be able to see that connection as well. And it allows us to make too strong of a conclusion about what ought to be done in response to what we have just noticed, what may be on the surface.
And something that we'll explore later on in the novel, to some extent, is that if this advice had been followed as it was meant to be followed, the situation would have turned out better, but because it's being misapplied, you're ending up in a worse situation.
Good advice poorly applied.
Yes, good advice poorly applied is not much better than bad advice in some cases.
Right.
So the final bias that we have here is with Arnold looking at the interaction that he had just had with Vanessa. He is going to subconsciously be convincing himself that she was just making fun of him, and that this interaction was not her reaching out to try to connect with him, because that's uncomfortable for him. He doesn't know what to do with that. He's used to people making fun of him. He knows how to deal with that. That's easy. He would rather that be the case than this new thing that he has no idea what to deal with.
And I have experienced that. I was probably a little older, maybe slightly older than Arnold is in our story, but it's a very strong application of a status quo bias. I would much rather stay in the discomfort that I know than to explore a freedom or an arena of where that discomfort is gone when it's unfamiliar. I had a very similar situation when I was in high school. Every year there would be the junior senior banquet, our school's equivalent of the prom, the big event that you invite a date to. And that was about the only time that I ever had the courage to ever invite anybody on a date. So I recall, I think this might have been my senior year, and last ditch effort, I asked one girl and she actually said yes. She agreed to go to the banquet with me. Stunned, I just said, okay. And that was the end of the conversation. And later that afternoon, one of my friends came up to me and said, did you ask so-and-so to the junior senior banquet? I said, yes. Well, she told me to let you know that she was just kidding and she's really not going to be able to go with you. And rather than being upset and furious that somebody would dare to retract their acceptance, I felt relieved. Okay, good. Everything's back to normal again. I think Arnold is experiencing something very similar to that.
Yes, I don't know how to react in this new situation.
It wasn't any kind of a romantic, interest shown there. So that was different about his scenario.
Right, but for him, it's it's talking to a girl, but also she's part of the cool kids, and he is not, and he feels like a complete outcast, doesn't know how to react in that situation, and it's a whole lot easier to pretend that he doesn't have to do anything with that at all. So those are some of the ways in which our characters are experiencing bias, logical fallacies, things like that, and how we want our readers to be able to look at that and see the characters going through that and then reflect on that themselves. So our question for you today is, what is a book or an author that is really good at making fiction books that cause the reader to reflect on themselves? If you know of any of those, let us know in the comments, and we will see you next week.